Livonia. Hi, Rose. Welcome.
Hi, Bob. I love your show.
Thank you.
I'm calling because in our Bible study last week, a question came up, and I thought it would be a good one to ask Dr. McMurtry. We were wondering why in Matthew 27:52, right after Jesus died on the cross and everything, even the whole world started going crazy, it mentions in 52 that tombs broke open, bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. They came out of the tombs after Jesus' resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared to many people. And what we were wondering is something of this significance. None of the other Gospels mention that, and we were a little curious as to why this point was not mentioned.
That is interesting. And, Grady, that's a good question, because I've often wondered that myself. For such an event like that, you would think that Mark, and that certainly Luke with his investigative work in this, and John there as an eyewitness, you would think that they would have mentioned something like that as well. How come just Matthew did?
Well, we don't know exactly why God chose to record that only once in Matthew. Let me say that, because that's God's mind on it. But some things are mentioned in all four Gospels, some in only three, some things in only one. Just to clarify, though, what that is this goes back to the first fruits offering. I have a book on the feast, and this is the first fruits offering of Jesus at the time of his resurrection. So that these are saints that were being kept, couldn't go to heaven because the resurrection had not yet occurred yet, but were being kept in what was called paradise. And when Jesus was resurrected, almost all of them went to heaven directly, but some went to Jerusalem, walked the streets of Jerusalem, glorifying God, and then went on to heaven. And they're his first fruits offering to the Father. And that goes back to the third sacrifice, major sacrifice of the Old Testament, the first fruits offering.
Do you think and I understand this is just speculation, Grady, but is it possible maybe that I don't know, Luke, for example, being a physician, and if he didn't physically see or experience this himself, that he may have thought, well, that this is going to be that this is a really extraordinary claim, and if I can't really document it myself, I'm not going to include it in my letter to Theophilus. And that, I don't know, maybe Peter through Mark was like, this is such an extraordinary claim. We don't want people to start questioning things, and this almost sounds so crazy, so let's just not mention it. I mean, is it possible
I wouldn't say that at all. Now, in the case of Luke, he wasn't an eyewitness to it, and therefore I think that there's reason to say that as the scientist, the doctor, and so forth of the group, the medical doctor, that he would have perhaps excluded it. But Matthew is the one who is writing primarily to the Jews. Mm-hmm. And, of course, in the Old Testament, you do have a few individual resurrections. Jesus was not the first.
Right.
That God raised from the dead. Now, God's the only one that could do that, but he's not the first. And so he's appealing to a Jewish culture that understood about resurrection, and I think that's why God chose him, perhaps, at least. Whereas John, for instance, is concentrated, almost all of John concentrates on just a few weeks of Jesus' life. Mm-hmm. Now, Matthew's much more broad spectrum in his writings.
Yeah. All right. Well, Rose, I suppose the short answer is that we don't know why the Holy Spirit chose to just work through Matthew in telling that account. God obviously has some reason for not wanting that to be widespread across all four Gospels, and whatever that reason is, I guess we'll find out someday.
But we can say that it is in fulfillment of the first fruits offering, which of course the Jews celebrate every year. I'm very familiar with the concept.
All right. Rose, that's a very good question. I appreciate your call. Thank you.